So if you navigate through your access to Alana, you have the decline curve analysis module here on your left-hand side. And I'm working with my local environment. You should be able to see some of this information. And I have already a scenario that has been already created. So the first thing is how to create a scenario. So if you want to create your own decline curve analysis scenario, you just put here my scenario, let's say. And this is with my initials. There are some defaults that I'm going to show later on. And at the moment, this is working with the oil phase. I can make this public or private. So if I want to just share it with everyone, I can make it public, or which is what I'm going to do now. As soon as I save it, the scenario will appear here, and I have few other options that I can control. So I can go and edit that scenario and change the name, for instance, change the scope. I can delete that scenario if I want to. I'm not going to do it, of course. And we can clone that scenario as well, which is a duplicate that scenario that I'm going to show you why is that helpful. So once the scenario is created, it will, if you go into analysis, you can pick up your scenario, and there are no wells associated to this scenario because it's a new one. So I'm going to check this bottom off, and then all the wells will turn up in here. So these are the wells at the moment. It's a mix of the wells from the session that we did on Argentina and the Gulf data. And we are adding some filters as we move forward. But so you can add any well into your scenario and start to work with few of the things that are available. So for illustration, let me see if I can find one well into the list. There are some random wells like this one. And with the scenario, what we can do is we have some defaults. This scenario you can fit the data, and you can forecast with some of the information. As you can see, the forecast is empty parameters that we have in here: the initial forecast rate, the period, and so on, the abandonment rate, and how do you want to start a forecast. This is all using ARPs for the time being. It's automatic or manual. You can set up any of those, and you have different options for the ARPs. So if you go into the defaults, which probably I'm not going to show for the time being, you can select few points here with the lasso tool that is available here. And this is, in this case, is telling us at the top, there are some messages at the top stating that we probably need some more information. So if I go to one of the cases that have already been run, what we can see, for instance, if we turn on the wells that have forecasts associated to this scenario, let me turn on this again. This is an automated test that we have done before. And what we can do is check the fit that has been done with the selection. And as you can see, the forecast value has already the initial forecast value for how many months you want to predict, the abandonment rate. And there is an initial forecast date, which is, it can be either a defined date, or it can be your last historical date. In this case, it's already doing a prediction in the future, October 2023. And there is also the option whether you want to use the last fitted rate, which is what it's exactly doing here. Now, once the scenarios are ready, I'm going to show you in a different project, which has multiple scenarios. We can go into the scenario overview and check what are the properties associated to every one of the wells that are in a particular scenario, what is it, the feed type that you have, if it's automatic or manual, if whether you have a hyperbolic, harmonic, or exponential decline, the beta, the decline rate, and the reserves associated to every phases. If I move into, I can download the data and check in the DCA file the downloaded data. So this will pop up in a CSV, and you can use that later on for any other purpose. But you have all the options here to go through the scenarios. If I go to the scenario comparison, there are two tabs here. You can produce a plot, or you can have a summary table of your scenario. So once I go to the plot, I have the scenarios in here. So I can select, for instance, Alana B total and another demo, Alana B case. So those scenarios have different wells, but all the wells will be shown here, at least the common wells. I can tick off, and you can see that there are 67 wells that belong to either one, the other scenario, or both. If I click here, you can see also here that there is a tick box stating that this is only showing the wells with DCA, because what we want is to aggregate the production of those wells. You can see the historical production, and then you can see the forecast. This one at the bottom probably has less wells than the one at the top that has many more wells. And that's why the forecast is so different. So if I turn off this one, for instance, and again, turn on all the wells, you can see that there are only 2 wells associated to that forecast. And that's a forecast, the production of those 2 wells and the forecast. If I go into the table, let me turn on more scenarios like the A, B, and this one. Let me see if I can turn on 4. Replot. Let me select a few wells. 91 wells. I'm going to replot. And if I go into the summary table, you can see the cumulative production for those wells that were selected, the very last oil rate, and the resources and EUR associated to those, every one of those scenarios that we produce. If I go into the DCA details, this is where you can drill down into every one of the cases and see the production associated to each well that you have fitted. I'm going to turn on the Alana B total that has many more wells. And you can see that there are a few tabs here with the forecast of the oil, gas, water injection, and so on, if that case have associated production or injection in the forecast. So if I tick on all the wells, you can see that I can start to turn off some of the wells or turn them on. And in this case, we have a forecast of around 6,000 barrels. So this can be, of course, downloaded. And you should be able to see the forecast, the well, the date, and the oil. So which is a very neat format for you to import and do any table, any plot, or any charting in any other tool. So once we finish with the DCA, the other question is, yes, I can go into the analysis. And let's say if I have the Alana A total, we have, if I turn on the wells with DCA, there are a few wells here with DCA. Let me go into the Alana B total. As you remember, it has only, let me see how many wells, has few wells as well, not the total, but the one that this case has only 2 wells associated. And I may be able to go and add more wells. So if I tick off this, I just can start to explore. And let's say you want to reopen this well in the future, you may want to do a DCA on that one. And this case, for instance, this well doesn't have a DCA. I can select some points. It's telling me that I have to update the forecast period. So I can come and set the forecast period for 420 months. the abandonment rate for 1 barrel per day, and I can set up the last historical date. This is going to start on the last historical date of a well, or I can define a particular date, which is you can specify it. I can also use on the forecast the last historical date. Let me see if we can rerun this. I'm going to select the game, and now we have the forecast, the feed, and the forecast for that particular well, and I can save it. You have a summary of the production data, the cumulative production data that is associated to this well during this production period, how much gas and water has been produced, the reserves associated, which is the forecast, which is 100,000 barrels cumulative for the remaining of a life of a well, and then you have a summary of a EUR. We are also integrating some additional features to run the water and gas forecast for this particular case.